Mystic River is a 2003 mystery crime drama directed by Clint Eastwood and based on a novel by author Dennis Lehane. This video has major spoilers on the entire film. Fair warning. In a nutshell, the film starts with a flashback. We see the three main characters as childhood friends, Davey, Jimmy, and Sean. They're writing their names in some wet cement when two plainclothes police officers stop them and take Davey away, but they're not cops. They keep him in a cellar for days until he escapes. We cut to the present. They still live in the same neighborhood, but aren't very close. Well, Jimmy and Davey's wife are cousins, so they're related by marriage. Jimmy has a 19-year-old daughter named Katie. She goes to the bar one night drinking with her friends. Davey is there too and sees her. Davey comes home that night covered in blood. He tells his wife that he got mugged by some guy and fought him off. He thinks he might have killed him. The next day, Katie is missing. The police find her beaten corpse in a ravine nearby. Two detectives are assigned the case. One of them is Sean. Dave's wife keeps looking in the newspapers for the dead mugger, but she sees nothing. Davey starts acting very strange as Jimmy uses his old criminal friends to conduct their own investigation to find Katie's murderer. Sean's partner and Davey's wife start to suspect that Davey killed Katie. They find blood in his trunk, his wife is scared of him, and his hand is all sliced up. Davey's wife even tells Jimmy she thinks he killed her. He believes her and stabs him to death. Sean tells Jimmy the next day that he found the killers. It was two teenagers. One of them was the little brother of Katie's boyfriend. He also tells him he's pretty sure Davey killed a known child molester that night. There's a whole side story with Katie's boyfriend Brendan Harris and his father Just Ray Harris, who we never see in the film. Jimmy went to prison years ago because Just Ray ratted him out, and when he was in prison his wife died of cancer. So Jimmy killed Ray when he got out and sends his wife $500 every month so they think that he's alive. The bullet that killed Katie is from the same gun that Just Ray used in a robbery years ago. Sean and his partner are pretty sure that Just Ray is dead, so they think for a minute that it's Brendan Harris, her boyfriend, that killed her, until they listen to the 911 call and hear the teenager's voice. Ray Jr., the little brother, found his father's gun and he was playing with it when him and his friends saw Katie. They got scared and they killed her. That's such great writing. He just happens to kill the daughter of the man that killed his father. That's karma. This film came out when I was in 6th grade. I missed it in theaters sadly, but I watched it with my family the first week it came out on DVD, and we were all on the edge of our seats. I kept thinking, did Tim Robbins kill her? I was so blown away by this entire film. As much as I love Gran Torino, I think this is Clint Eastwood's greatest achievement as a filmmaker. I used to think that this film was flawless, that I wouldn't change anything about it, but rewatching it this week, I found two things that I would change. One is after the detectives question Brandon about his father's gun, he goes home and gets it. He has a smile on his face at first, but when he sees the holster is empty, he looks confused. I think he smiled to trick the audience that he killed Katie, but he didn't, so why would he be smiling? That's a small thing. But the biggest thing is the end when Sean tells Jimmy he found the killers and is looking for Davey. Jimmy tells him, thanks for finding my daughter's killers. I just wish you would have done it sooner. Sean tells him, are you going to send Davey's wife $500 a month now? That's him telling Jimmy, I know you killed Just Ray Harris and I'm pretty sure you killed Davey. But Jimmy just walks away and we see him in the next scene with his wife. So Sean let him go. As much as I like Jimmy as a character, I want him to go to prison for killing Davey. I don't believe Sean would let him go. Sure, they were friends as kids and he feels bad for him, but he's a cop first and Jimmy killed Davey. Sure, Davey would have gone to prison for killing the child molester, but I'm sure he would have got a suspended sentence considering the circumstances. I always thought Jimmy went back to prison, but I really don't think that he does. I'm not sure how I missed this. I've watched this film many times in my life. From the moment it ended in 6th grade, I knew that I loved this film and I bought it on DVD. It's such a powerful, dark, sad, and well-made film. God, this movie is so sad. Sean Penn is such a master at his craft and he's perfect for the role of Jimmy. He portrays all the anger and sadness of losing a child so perfectly. You feel so horrible for Jimmy, but at the same time you're kind of scared of him and what he will do. It's obvious that Jimmy is a good dad, but just how he has that intense stare of hatred for Brendan shows you he's capable of doing something horrible. I think the standout scene for everyone is when all the police are holding Jimmy back. His love, anger, sadness, and pure loss is so strong, they need a mob of police to hold one man back. Any other film that would just look silly or over dramatic, but Sean Penn pulls it off. There's just so many moments when he's overcome with his loss and sadness, but I genuinely like his character. Sure, he was a criminal and he has killed people before and he goes back to killing, but you can't help but like him. One, it's Sean Penn, who's a badass, but I just love the character of Jimmy. I love how he sends Just Ray Harris's wife $500 a month. Maybe it's just to convince her that Just Ray is alive, but I think it's partially because he knows that he has two kids and is responsible for them, even though he hates them. He completely deserved the Oscar he won for his performance. Tim Robbins also won a much deserved Oscar for his performance. Bringing up the Oscars, I want to talk about Dead Man Walking. That's a film that Sean Penn starred in the year of 1995, which Tim Robbins directed. Sean Penn was nominated that year for his performance to get an Oscar, but lost to Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. I absolutely love both these films. They're both very special to me. As much as I love Sean Penn and Dead Man Walking, I wasn't mad that Nick Cage won in 95 though. But it just feels so good that Robbins and Penn reunited 8 8 years later and went home with an Oscar. It just feels like everything happened the way it should have for them. Let's talk about Davey for a minute. His character is so sad, but the first time you watch this film, he's kind of scary. You can't completely blame his wife Celeste for thinking he killed Katie. I think most of the first time audience thought he did too, but he's the biggest victim of the film. Katie was only killed. Davey was raped for days as a child, then lived a life of post-traumatic stress until he was murdered for a crime that he didn't commit. He's such a tragic character. It's like he never had a chance at a happy life, and he feels so bad for his son too. Even though Davey was emotionally damaged, he was a great father and truly loved his son. My favorite scene with Davey is when he's watching the vampire movie and scares the hell out of his wife. That's the point of the film when you start to really think that this guy is losing it and maybe he did kill Katie. Trivia: the film that he's watching is John Carpenter's Vampires. I want to talk about Katie for a minute. We only spend a few minutes at most with her, but she leaves an impression. She's so likable. But I love the series Shameless, which stars Emily Rossum, who plays Katie, so I can't help but see the character Fiona when I see Katie. A moment I always pay attention to rewatching this film is the last time Jimmy sees his daughter alive. Later he tells Sean that she gave him the same look she gave him before he went to prison, like she was preparing to never see him again. When you rewatch it, it's played so subtle and sincere. This film is so much better on repeat viewings because you know how tragic everything ends. I want to talk about Katie's boyfriend Brendan Harris, played by the actor Tom Geary. In case you didn't notice, he played Smalls in The Sandlot, another great film. As much as I like Jimmy, I think Brendan is my favorite character and gives the best performance. Take it that he doesn't have nearly as much screen time as Sean Penn, but every scene he gets, he nails. Just like Jimmy, he plays the sadness and loss of a loved one so convincingly and believably. And my absolute favorite scene of the entire film is when he confronts his little brother and his friend. I was so shocked and scared by the use of violence as he kicked that kid in the face. That whole scene is so well acted by everyone. When the kid with the braces cries of fear, it's so convincing. I also love the actor who plays Ray Jr., the mute little brother. The actor is Spencer Clark. He's in the movies Unbreakable, Gladiator, and The Last House on the Left remake, and a lot more great projects too. I really respect him as an actor. But let's get back to the film. It's just an incredibly powerful story. It had me hooked from the very opening. As a kid, I was never afraid of monsters or anything like that. I was afraid of child molesters. My grandmother would terrify me with stories of children getting kidnapped, raped, and murdered to keep me away from strangers. And this film shows that perfectly without actually showing it. And how Jimmy and Sean talk right at the same spot and we see the dried cement with Davey's name only half written. It's so sad. The best part of the end is when Sean asked Jimmy when was the last time he saw Davey, and he says 30 years ago when he got in that car, and it shows young Davey as they drive him away from his innocence and youth. How the camera pans back and shows Jimmy and Sean just standing there is one of my favorite moments in film. Not just in this film, any film. Then Sean tells him, you know, sometimes I think we all went in that car that day. We're just 11-year-old boys locked in a cellar, imagining what our lives would have been if we escaped. Dennis Lehane, who wrote the novel, is one of my favorite working writers. He wrote Gone Baby Gone, Shutter Island, Live by Night, and worked on the writing team of two of my favorite shows of all time, The Wire and Boardwalk Empire. I absolutely love all those projects, but I think this is his best work though. All of his work gives a level of authenticity, especially in this and Gone Baby Gone, how he shows Boston and the Irish American community. But it was Clint Eastwood that took his writing and turned it into a masterpiece of a film. I know that masterpiece is a very strong word, but this is a very strong film. I've seen it many times and I'm sure I will see it many more. So that's my review on Mystic River. I'm Jacob from Cinema Junkies. Thanks for watching, keep watching, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, and follow me on Instagram, cinemajunkies_. Don't forget the underscore.